Today, we bring you the latest South Korean film, Seoul Night Girl. Let's take a look at the current living conditions of young women at the bottom of South Korean society. The story takes place in Seoul, South Korea. Ji-yeon and Seo-jin have been best friends since high school. They have been living together in a shared apartment. Seo-jin comes from a poor family and dropped out of school after high school to work. Ji-yeon's family is much better off, and she successfully went to college. Several years have passed, and Ji-yeon is now in her senior year with fewer courses. Her family situation is only slightly better than Soo-jin's. Most of the time, they live frugally. However, Ji-yeon heard that Soo-jin, after many years of struggling in society, found a quick way to make money. Sometimes, she can even earn tens of thousands in just an hour. So Ji-yeon asked Seo-jin for help, hoping she could show her how to make money. Without hesitation, Seo-jin agreed to Ji-yeon's request. That evening, Seo-jin took Ji-yeon to a karaoke bar where she often worked as a hostess. The receptionist questioned them about why they didn't use the back entrance and instead came through the front. Seo-jin quickly explained that it was difficult to park at the back. Fortunately, the receptionist didn't make a fuss and urged them to quickly go to the private room. The men in the private room cheered when they saw Seo-jin and Ji-yeon. A guest requested Ji-yeon to accompany him. This was Ji-yeon's first time as a hostess. Seo-jin was initially worried that Ji-yeon might be reserved, but she was surprisingly at ease, chatting effortlessly with the guest. In contrast, the guest who requested her seemed a bit nervous, repeatedly emphasizing that he had never been to such a place before and that it was his first time here for company gathering. He kept nervously observing Ji-yeon's expression, as if afraid she might be displeased. This made Ji-yeon develop a good impression of the young man. The more they talked, the more they hit it off, as if they had endless things to say. Soo-jin watched coldly as the two chatted happily. She thought, first time? More like a seasoned player in the game, just tricking Ji-yeon, a newcomer. But Ji-yeon believed it. Ji-yeon's first time accompanying a client ended quickly. She sat in the car with the pimp, MOG, excitedly sharing her experience with Soo-jin. Soo-jin wanted to warn Ji-yeon that the client was clearly deceiving her and that they would encounter many difficult clients. Today was just luck. It wouldn't always be this easy. But with MOG in the car, Soo-jin couldn't speak up. She also remembered that Ji-yeon was a college student and was just doing this for fun. She wouldn't do it for long, so Soo-jin didn't say anything. Mao-go, seeing Ji-yeon with a big smile, suggested she join the business, saying it could be quite profitable. Ji-yeon happily agreed. A few days later, brother Mao received a big order. The client specifically requested Ji-yeon to accompany them. However, Ji-yeon had classes that day. After hesitating for a moment, she decisively chose to have Seo-jin attend the class for her while she went to earn big money. Seo-jin was worried about being caught by the teacher and refused Ji-yeon's request. But Ji-yeon kept pleading with Seo-jin, saying that the teacher wouldn't recognize her and that she had already arranged with her boyfriend Sung-young to cover for her. Under Ji-yeon's persistent pleading, Seo-jin finally agreed to attend the class for her. The next morning, Soo-jin cut her bangs short, put on sweet makeup, and carried her backpack. Wearing Ji-yeon's school uniform, she set off. To avoid being exposed, Soo-jin kept searching for tips on how to pretend to be a college student on her way to school. How ironic. The hostess tries her best to pretend to be a college student, while the real college student goes to work as a hostess. Fortunately, Seo-jin is lucky enough to avoid being called on. Just as she is about to breathe a sigh of relief, the teacher suddenly asks her to answer a question. Seo-jin stands up nervously, not daring to look up. She has never been to college and can't understand what the teacher is saying. Luckily, a boy in the back row quietly provides the answer. Thanks to his help, the teacher doesn't notice anything unusual. Seo-jin turns around and gratefully smiles at the boy, only to realize that after class, Sung-young approaches Seo-jin to chat. His words were full of concern for Ji-yeon. He finally told Seo-jin that he worked part-time at a coffee shop near the school and invited her to visit. Looking at the sunny and innocent boy in front of her, Seo-jin felt a surge of affection. After all, she had been working at a karaoke bar for a long time, dealing mostly with greasy old men. Where can you find a cute little brother like Chung-ing? Soo-jin wandered aimlessly around the campus, watching the college students passing by with envy. As she walked, she found herself at a cafe and remembered that Chung-ing mentioned he worked there. Soo-jin stood at the entrance, almost as if guided by fate. Wanting to see Sung-young, Sung-young saw Seo-jin inviting her into the store and thoughtfully prepared a cake for Seo-jin. The two started chatting casually. However, Sung-young did all this for Ji-yeon. Ji-yeon's birthday was coming up, and Sung-young wanted Seo-jin's help in choosing a gift. After all, a girl's thoughts are best understood by another girl. Seo-jin also wanted to spend more time with Sung-young. The two talked late into the night about Ji-yeon's gift. Soo-jin was very envious of Ji-yeon for having such an excellent boyfriend. However, Ji-yeon didn't appreciate her good fortune. She spent her days mingling with various men at KTVs and gradually started staying out all night. To make money, she resorted to any means necessary, using her youth and beauty to steal customers from her colleagues. Her colleagues frequently complained to Soo-jin that Ji-yeon didn't follow the rules. Soo-jin hurriedly explained that Ji-yeon was just there to experience life and wouldn't stay long, which finally appeased them. Soo-jin had just finished comforting a colleague when she discovered that Ji-yeon had also taken her client, Manager Park. Angrily, Soo-jin questioned Ji-yeon about what was going on. Ji-yeon explained that Manager Park had asked to meet her and had given her his business card. However, she promised not to see him again. Seeing Ji-yeon's response, Soo-jin couldn't say much more. At that moment, Ji-yeon received a call from the pimp, Mao. Arrange for Ji-yeon to meet clients again tomorrow. Ji-yeon excitedly agreed. Ji-yeon earns money easily and spends it lavishly. She buys bags and shoes she likes without even looking at the price. On the other hand, Soo-jin is very frugal, trying to make every penny count. She hesitates to buy a lipstick she likes for a long time, but Jiyeon ends up buying it for her. Soojin is overjoyed to receive the lipstick. The rift between the two friends over competing for clients finally disappears. One day, the two best friends received bad news. The rent for their current house was going up. To have enough money to pay next month's rent, they started working even harder. Although the job of a hostess might seem easy, it is actually very exhausting. The two friends often had to entertain guests from evening until late at night, sometimes even until dawn, just to earn a paycheck. After a night's work ended, on their way home, they often fell asleep leaning on each other. One day, Soojin's father, old Loo, came to visit. Soojin was from a single-parent family. Although she was legally under her grandmother's care, old Loo never fulfilled his parental responsibilities. Otherwise, Soojin wouldn't have ended up working as a hostess right after high school. Old Loo came to introduce a potential suitor to Soojin. When Soojin saw the man's conditions, she was furious. Not only was he unattractive, but he was also 13 years older than her. His only advantage was having some money. Soojin flatly refused and accused old Loo of selling his daughter. Old Loo nonchalantly tried to persuade her, claiming it was for her own good. Soojin took out the money she had prepared and handed it to her grandmother. Old Loo immediately stopped talking and happily pocketed the money. Soon after, Soojin found a strange woman's earring in old Loo's car. It seemed that old Loo was not only greedy, but also quite lecherous. The poor environment of her original family was the reason if Soojin was forced by her family. Jiyeon just started working as a hostess. She saw how quickly money could be made in this industry and, driven by vanity, chose to enter the nightlife. There weren't many hostesses, and the customers were limited. As a fresh face in the business, Jiyeon naturally attracted a lot of attention. Customers eagerly gave her gifts, and Jiyeon mistakenly believed she had something special that other hostesses didn't. She boasted to Soojin about how great the customers were. The attention from the customers made Jiyeon focus solely on her appearance, neglecting all household chores and leaving them to Soojin. Soojin soon couldn't take it anymore. Jiyeon offered her opinion. Jiyeon's sweet-talking skills were on full display as she quickly appeased Soojin with just a few words. Seeing that Soojin was no longer upset, Jiyeon turned and walked back into the bar. Watching Jiyeon immerse herself in the bar scene, Soojin regretted bringing her into this industry. The bar was like a big dye vat, and the once exemplary student Jiyeon had now become adept at navigating it. She had even learned to cooperate with other hostesses. Using her birthday as an excuse to ask guests for money, after the party, Soojin warned Jiyeon not to get too close to other hostesses. After all, people can be unpredictable, and birds of a feather flock together. These women chose to be hostesses because they lack other skills. Jiyeon, being highly educated, shouldn't consider this a formal job. Unexpectedly, their leader overheard Soojin's words. Feeling that Soojin was acting superior, she started a fight. Jiyeon quickly intervened and took Soojin away. Soojin's words made Jiyeon realize she is still a student and should focus on her studies. The next morning, Jiyeon went back to school to continue her classes. The routine campus life can't compare to the dazzling nightlife. Just one morning, Jiyeon couldn't stand the boring classes. As soon as class ended at noon, Jiyeon contacted a new client, Manager Park. This Manager Park was also Soojin's client. Although Jiyeon promised Soojin not to see Manager Park again, she couldn't resist because Manager Park was too generous. Meanwhile, Soojin also arranged to meet Jiyeon's boyfriend, Sungyoung. Before meeting Sungyoung, Soojin spent a long time dressing up to look like an innocent and naive girl. Soojin's innocence was an act, but Sungyoung was genuinely naive. To thank Soojin for helping him choose the gift, Sungyoung offered to treat her to a meal. At the dinner table, Sungyoung cautiously inquired about Jiyeon's recent situation. After all, Sungyoung was naive but not stupid. He had already noticed that Jiyeon was chatting with many strangers. He feared that Jiyeon had fallen for someone else and wanted to break up with him, but he didn't dare to ask Jiyeon directly. So, he could only indirectly ask Soojin. Soojin sighed at Sungyoung's innocence but couldn't betray her friend, so she just brushed off Sungyoung's questions. The story returns to the hostesses. One night, several hostesses were sitting in the car of their pimp, Brother Mao, waiting for customers. An older sister suggested that business had been bad lately and they should go to the temple to pray for good luck. She even invited Soojin to join them. Soojin knew in her heart that the reason they had no customers recently was because they were older and not as attractive as the younger girls. Praying at the temple wouldn't help, so she flatly refused the older sister's suggestion. At this moment, Jiyeon tells Soojin that she broke up with Sungyoung because he kept asking who the man in her phone was. This made Jiyeon feel that Sungyoung was too immature. Soojin knows these are just excuses. Jiyeon broke up with Sungyoung because she found him annoying. However, now that they have broken up, Soojin secretly feels happy. Feeling that her chance had come, Soojin approached the pimp, Mo, while Jiyeon was busy with a client. She told him she no longer wanted to be a hostess. Before she could finish, Mo got out of the car. A drunken hostess was lying on the ground, completely unresponsive no matter how much Mo tried. This hostess was the same woman who had previously assaulted Soojin. Despite their past conflict, seeing her in such a state made Soojin feel a sense of empathy, worrying that she might end up the same way. This strengthened her resolve to quit. However, Mo told her that once you're in this line of work, there's no quitting. He suggested she could take a day off if she was tired, but Soojin had already made up her mind to leave. That night, she went to the cafe where Changyong worked to apply for a job. With Changyong's recommendation, Soojin successfully got the job. However, her real intention was to check on Changyong. Changyong immediately broke down in tears, saying she was not doing well. To comfort her, Soojin drank with her. Under the influence of alcohol, Changyang poured out all her grievances. It turned out she had long known that Ji-yeon was working as a hostess but pretended not to know. In the end, Ji-yeon still chose money over love, falling for the older manager Park and breaking up with Changyang. Drank until the bar closed, still saying she hadn't had enough. Taking advantage of the moment, Sujin suggested, "How about coming to my place for a drink?" So, Changyang went to Sujin's house. They drank and chatted, and as they drank more, Changyang gradually forgot the pain of his breakup. He took out the birthday gift he had prepared for Ji-yeon and gave it to Sujin, expressing how happy he was to have Sujin as a friend. Just then, Ji-yeon returned. Worried that it would be too awkward for Ji-yeon and Changyang to meet, Sujin hid Changyang. Unexpectedly, as soon as Ji-yeon entered, she started talking about the guests she and Sujin had entertained together. Seeing Ji-yeon speak so freely, Sujin quickly pushed her to take a shower, hoping to shut her up. After all, Sujin had previously lied to Changyang, claiming she worked as a waitress at a beer house. Unfortunately, Ji-yeon didn't understand Sujin's intention. She flirted on the phone with Manager Park, a familiar guest. All of this was overheard by Sungyoung, who was hiding in the bedroom. Only then did Sungyoung realize that both women in the house were hostesses. Sojin tried to explain as she saw Sungyoung come out, but Sungyoung left without even looking at her. Ji-yeon wasn't angry about her best friend bringing her ex-boyfriend home. Instead, she was a bit happy because at least this way, she wouldn't feel guilty toward Sungyoung. At this moment, Ji-yeon suddenly revealed a shocking news. She was getting married, and her fiancé was Manager Park. She was already pregnant with his child. Sojin was stunned as she looked at Ji-yeon. Manager Park was also Sojin's client, or rather, he was a client to many hostesses. He had told many girls that he would marry them, but only Ji-yeon foolishly believed him and got pregnant. Sojin wanted to persuade Ji-yeon not to trust Manager Park. However, Ji-yeon leaned against the bed, happily reminiscing about her time with Manager Park, her eyes full of hope for the future. Seeing Ji-yeon's sweet expression, Sojin realized that Ji-yeon was blinded by wealth and love. No matter what she said now, Ji-yeon wouldn't listen and would only think it was jealousy. Ji-yeon needs a good opportunity to persuade her. For Sujin, there's something very important right now, explaining today's events to Sungyoung as soon as possible. The next day, Sujin finds Sungyoung and explains that she was planning to quit and didn't want to cause any misunderstandings. She asks Sungyoung to talk in the evening, but Sungyoung says they should wait until Sujin quits and then leaves. Sujin wanted to catch up and say something more, but just then she received a call from the pimp, Brother Mao. Brother Mao said that it's not impossible for her to resign. Today is Ji-yeon's birthday and Manager Park will be attending. If she can entertain Manager Park and bring another girl to replace her, she can resign. Eager to leave, Sujin readily agreed to Brother Mao's request. In the evening, Sojin arrived at the KTV, as promised. She indeed brought a girl with her, who turned out to be Ji-yeon's junior, Eun-hai. Sojin did this not just to make her own escape easier, but also to make Ji-yeon see the reality. Manager Park likes Ji-yeon only because she is young. Before her, Manager Park liked every young hostess. The moment Ji-yeon saw Eun-hai for the first time, she felt resistant towards him. Perhaps Ji-yeon subconsciously knew that Manager Park was only attracted to her youth and beauty and would never marry her. What she feared most came true. At Ji-yeon's birthday party, although Manager Park was holding Ji-yeon, he couldn't take his eyes off Eun-hai. It was obvious to everyone that Manager Park's affection would soon shift. Ji-yeon announced her pregnancy, hoping to win back Manager Park's heart. However, Manager Park suddenly turned cold and revealed that he already had a family and could never marry Ji-yeon. Moreover, how could a hostess prove the child is hers? Anger and grievance intertwined in Ji-yeon's heart. She opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. Ji-yeon never expected that the man who flirted with her yesterday would humiliate her today. Ji-yeon downed her drink in one gulp and left the room in tears. Sujin noticed something was wrong with Ji-yeon's emotions. She hurriedly chased after him. At that moment, Sujin received a call from Sunjiang. Sunjiang said he was willing to talk and trust her again. Torn between a man she likes and her best friend, Sujin tearfully asked Sunjiang for another chance, explaining she had something important to do and couldn't come right away. Sunjiang thought Sujin was lying again and refused her. Sujin was still reeling from the rejection when she received a call from her junior, Eun-hai. It turned out that Ji-yeon had already returned to the room and had started arguing with Manager Park. When Sujin went back to the room again, Ji-yeon had already started fighting with Manager Park. Being a man, Manager Park quickly subdued Ji-yeon. Ji-yeon curled up on the sofa, too scared to speak. Manager Park humiliated Ji-yeon with a smug look and also insulted Sojin, who came to mediate, as well as all the hostesses. Ji-yeon couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed the bottle and smashed it on Manager Park's head, which enraged him. Manager Park picked up an ashtray, intending to teach Ji-yeon a lesson. Fearing Ji-yeon would get hurt, Sojin, in a moment of panic, stabbed Manager Park with scissors. As they watched him fall, the two sisters exchanged glances. Their eyes showed fear and grievance, but more than anything, relief that the other was unharmed. The scene shifts to Ji-yeon and Sojin on the subway. They huddle close together, their faces full of helplessness and fear. Ji-yeon comforts Sojin, telling her not to be afraid. Life is always moving forward, like riding the subway. If you take the wrong train, just get off and transfer. You'll eventually reach your destination. After saying this, Ji-yeon lets go of Sojin's hand and gets off the train early. It seems Ji-yeon is planning to run away. On the other side, Sujin has also prepared her passport. On her way abroad, Sujin seemed to see Ji-yeon. If she hadn't become a hostess, if she hadn't introduced Jiyeon to this industry, or if she had realized her mistakes earlier and changed course as Jiyeon suggested, would all of this have happened? Tears filled Sujin's eyes at the thought. How she wished she could turn back time.